Alright. Okay, so thank you everyone for joining. So this particular session is on task mining. My name is Sisir. I'm an automation architect in UiPath MVP 2021. So today I'll be your host, walking you through a deep dive about task mining. How do you start your journey? During this session, we'll understand from scratch and end with some practical sessions. There are certain videos, so it will be very interactive. And try to make it also more interactive by asking question. Feel free to unmute or raise your question on chat whenever you got stuck. All right. So as part of UiPath, if you see the product life cycle, there are a lot of product we have as part of 20.21.6 release or 10 what is there in preview. You see, there are primarily the products are categorized into five different buckets: discover, build, manage, run, and engage. So task mining is the tool which fall under discover, which as suggested by the name, you primarily coming across scenarios where let's say business do not know what automations they want to automate. Right today, if you are working with various business team, generally what happens, the approach we generally reach out to business is okay. Do you have any mundane process or business identified some process which they realize this is a mundane task. I'm being repeating this task again and again, but I want an automation solution for that. So those scenario we reach to say, okay, why don't you use a solution which is either COE can develop using Studio, or you can develop as a citizen develop using Studio X. So that's where you can automate the process. But the real challenge come into picture when you say when the team does not know what is the process they want to automate, whether the team do not, maybe they will come across scenario. I really don't find what is the potential element which is getting repeated over and over again, and there is a possibility of process re-engineering or maybe identify the scenario where it says there are certain chances of identifying what are the steps or tasks your team is doing repeatedly. So for that particular scenario, what you need to do, take a bunch of logs from the team who is working on and apply certain machine learning problem or maybe apply some analytical techniques and find out those repetitive steps and perform your process re-engineering or analyze all these steps and come back with certain solutions saying, okay, these steps can be automated, this step can be revamped. So those is possible today with the tool called task mining. So with this particular tool, part of Discover, so this will be installed in user machine. The fundamental principle is this is a tool which will install inside your business user machine who are day to day performing the task in a regular interval. And this tool basically what it will do is it will monitor or capture the action being performed by users, and then it will push these logs back to a central server or storage location. And using AIML model through task mining, it will analyze all these actions being performed and recommend what is the best automation possible out of all the logs being generated. So this is how it generally works. So how do you really start and what's the prerequisite? How do you generally start? Where this really exist? So task mining is a solution which is available today through cloud. So you must have a cloud account while you are working with task mining. So if you this is also possible by your community, you can create your community account, and if it is enterprise, then you can request task mining by working with your account manager. So they'll help you to set up your task mining and provide you the required license. Once this is enabled, you should be able to start creating your project. There are certain also requirement in terms of your firewall allow your whitelisting. If there are certain IP restriction or you are using proxies, then these are the IPs primarily documented on docs.uipath.com site as well. You have to whitelist this because this is a primary requirement when you are working with um, task mining. So make sure this is a cloud solution. So while you are working with UiPath Cloud, the task mining project can be created over there, and you can have your users connecting to those cloud portal and start generating the logs or pushing the logs. And all the action further after the logs are captured, it will perform inside cloud like analysis and monitoring. All this you can do from cloud portal itself. Okay, so this is how it performs. Now there are certain requisite in terms of, let's say when it comes for client, like the users who will be using task mining tool, there are certain primary requirement to have your minimum processor requirement, operating system and RAM, like 8 GB to 16 GB of RAM. And it's better to have i5 and i7. And most recommended browser also Edge and Microsoft and the Mozilla Firefox, because it generate the logs and recordings in a right way, and you'll have a better logs from them. And there are certain restrictions. Suppose you are working on a VDA or Citrix environment, you might face certain kind of restriction, like it's not fully supported. So there are certain requirement in terms of your task mining tool and your VDA where your application is running. Make sure this both are installed in a same environment. Then you can really control or manage recording properly. Otherwise, if it is Citrix or you are accessing through Citrix, it will be no selector, and it will not work as expected. So it is if you are working on task mining, make sure the recorder and your application perform is sitting on the same machine and working on that. So two component, one is your cloud, which is really setting the entire project. Second is your client, which is installing on a user machine, and this is the requirement. How do you really start? Now, when you start this process, there are various stages your entire cycle will proceed, right? So it's commonly bucketed into 6 different categories. First thing is setting up your project. Like, where do you start? First, you got your, let's assume you got your cloud account set up with task mining, and you got your required license with task mining, and required license with AI Center. Everything is set up. The very immediate step is to create your basically the project, right? You configure the project, identify the users, like who are the key users who will start it, which business you want to perform this action. Let's say you are part of a COE and you are functioning in various like you are working with various team members, let's say finance, supply chain, marketing and all. So identify one team member who are really struggling to find out what is the potential candidate where automation can apply. So that's the right team to start with, right? So identify those select group who are ready to analyze their logs and come back with like process improvement steps. So then you go for collecting the data. Now you identify the users. The next step is collecting data. So during this collection of data, that categorized into 3 key steps. One is first you need to create a project. The project creation can be done inside task mining portal itself, right? You go to web, the cloud portal, create a project. I'll show you in a live session also, like how do you do some practical. So you create a project. So within that project, we have to add these team members who are really identified to collect the data. And you once you add this team member, you create your different projects. Now it has to be there is an internal configuration while you are creating a project. It is mandatory you have to create an AI center project as well, because once you capture the log has to push to a AI center model, then only it can analyze, right? So that's why while you create a project in task mining, you need to have a AI Center project, which can further be mapped back, saying, okay, once the logs is captured, the AI Center project will help you to analyze, because we have a dedicated AI model available for task mining project. Okay. So once you create that particular step, we will basically next step is install the task mining recorder in business user machine. The user who are identified to collect the data will install that tool, and we'll also invite this user to cloud portal because they have to log in, right? So once you install this task mining tool, it is in few MBs. Once you install it, it basically asks you to log into the portal. And once you log in, you start your based on some admin configuration which is required for a project to set up which application you want to monitor and who are the user needs to monitor for a given project. Once admin start the recording from cloud, the users will start the monitoring starts from there, right? The users do not have the ability to, let's say, stop and start. If admin start, and admin can only stop it. But yes, user can pause it. Like for example, suppose users are doing some task which they don't want to record, right? There is some process which they're suppose they're doing some action sensitive work which they don't want to record, or some doing some personal work which they don't want to record. So at that time, it allows you to call out for a pause within the tool itself, like I'm pausing it for 5, 30 minutes, 2 hours, or some time, and then it will not do any recording that time. But rest of the time, it will keep on monitoring what you are doing on a target application, and it will keep recording those. Recording means it's just pushing the logs and actions. So next question will come is what all it will record, right? What all different application it might record. So that is again control from the project configuration. While you are creating from a COE admin team the project, you also have the ability to say, okay, I want this team to record XYZ application. Like I can set chrome.exe, edge.exe, or notepad.exe, Outlook. So all these application, if you mention there, so task mining will fetch that information and start monitoring and recording. As an end user, assume you see some of the application you are working, but it is not recording that. And you can also recommend and start recording as well. Like you can recommend, okay, I want to record this application, which is not by default set by administrator, but as a user, you want to recommend and record, that is also possible. So this is how your project setup and task mining setup done, and users start generating the logs and it get pushed. So once the logs are captured, right, there is a possibility you can save the logs to your own storage, or you can take advantage of UiPath storage. So you can do that configuration. Once this like recordings are done, it is published to the cloud. Now the next step is you come to analyze, right? So once we have the recording, everything is ready. So analysis comes from, as I said, you have raw recording steps which multiple users are performed at every given project. You can maximum invite 7 users. That's the, we don't need so many, but 7 active users pushing n number of logs, that should be enough. With that 7 user logs, with let's say 400 500k is a recommended number of logs has to be there. So once you have it, the next step is apply a AI center model and come back with a solution saying, okay, what is the what's all metrics really bringing? That problem is resolved by a AI center model. There is a pre-trained model designed by UiPath for task mining. You can whatever the project you link to the pre-trained model. Now you run that AI center running pipeline. Basically, it is a evaluation pipeline you are running. If you have ever worked with AI center, there are multiple pipelines, right? You can have a full pipeline, evaluation pipeline, and train pipeline. So in this case, you are really running a evaluation pipeline because you have a data set. Now there is a default task mining project. You take your data set, which is your data set is nothing but whatever you recorded here, right? This is your data set. The logs is your data set. Now you take that data set within AI Center, you run your evaluation pipeline using your a task mining model, and this will take care about publishing the output result to your task mining project back. That once the evaluation is done, it will take some time depending on your log size and depending on your volume. Once everything is set up, like training is completed, evaluation is completed, this will push entire log back to like all the result back to your project particularly as task mining. Okay. So after that, next step is visualizing and analyzing your report. All the logs get processed by a model, and now the report is ready for you to analyze. Now here is the business SMEs or BA role come into picture, who will further analyze, okay, what the recommendation comes from the tool, what really making sense, right? So you're really analyzing your summary of report, and you're choosing which task to analyze further, and then you're creating a map like structure saying, okay, this is really makes sense. And some tasks you say, okay, it really doesn't make sense, maybe the model needs to be retrained, or maybe you're linking certain steps. You can edit some step, you can recompute some steps. Those are all possible. And after that, you're coming back with a final trace saying this is how the process looks like, and you have a very detailed view of saying, okay, this is what a repetitive process, and you will have number of how many repetition done, how many recording have done there. So that you can take, and finally you can export a document out of it. The tool is also having a built-in technology to export your process design document. Think about your PDD, you can export it directly from the recommendation path, saying this can be a automated solution, so you can export it there. And it also allow you to export a YAML file which can be used as a reusable component in your solution, right? So you can really export PDD and YAML file and can share with your RPA developer, who will further use this in further, like in your regular automation, right? This is how the life cycle detailed process of task mining maintain. Just a quick recap: first you identify the user, then you start collecting the data by creating project and installing the tool, then you analyze using AI Center. Further that, you are visualizing and exporting for development. Okay, so this is how you capture the process. Now the next thing comes is, okay, if we drill or expand each of this section, you understand, okay, how really you are creating, what is the steps to create. So within your cloud account, we have this section called as task mining. Okay, so you have to go, which is just below to admin. This is a task mining. So here within this, you can create a project. Remember, to create a project, you must have an admin role. Just like that, anyone cannot create. So administrators can create this task mining project. That's the first step. So once you create your project, give a meaningful description, the next step is inviting your team and configuring your project, right? So inviting teams, meaning you whoever you identify record, uh, record and push the logs. Those are the team member you have to invite here. Before even you invite this team member, make sure they have a cloud invitation as well, right? So the user group who will be adding from here must be invited in cloud so that they will reflect here. Just if you type the name, it will not appear. So before even you adding the user, make sure you go to your admin portal and invite those users so that they will be available for your task mining recording. So if they have a cloud invitation, they can really add it to any of the task mining projects. So once you have done that, the next step is you do some pre-configuration, right? Some of the pre-configuration, like you are linking your task mining project to a AI center model, right? That's what I've mentioned, because once the logs are generated, it has to run a evaluation pipeline so that it can really recommend what can be done. That's where it comes for this configuration where you have to link which AI center project you want to link to. And once you link that, you can also mention if this is what is your storage type, whether it's a continuous upload or you want to share by a shared drive. And second thing is what all application you want to record. Like I mentioned, you can really define the application with the full name with the exe, like here notepad.exe, chrome.exe, whatever application your business is working, bring that application.exe name so it can work appropriately. And these applications are two categories. If you see here, one is globally recorded, one is individual user request. So if the user, while they are recording through task mining, as I said in the previous slide, user can also recommend, I want to record this application. That time this will appear in the right hand side, right? It will show us like individual user requested. And the globally recorded ones are basically which as an administrator you have mentioned, and will forcefully record on user, like all the user machine. And some application which is like globally like requested by user, you can also select that and say this is for this can move to global, so you can do this toggle as well with this button. So this is how you're defining which application to monitor and which application to control. That's where the governance comes. And after that, you are really adding the user, and users, once they're added, you can see what is the status, whether they have accepted the invite. If some user forcefully stopped it, right? For example, there is a scenario, my recording is going on, I can kill the recording, I don't want recording to happen. There's those types of scenario. Then you can see from administrator perspective saying, okay, who are the user active, who are the user paused the recording, who are the user stopped or force killed it, and you can always restart it again. And you can inform the user saying, I see you force killed it and we restarted, so it will restart. And if it is paused as well, you can inform back to user saying we can see those recordings are paused from so and so time, and how many successful logs are captured already, right? So this is possible. And remember, to get a proper result, you need to have at least 100 to 200K actions captured. Then only the machine learning model can really work. As you know, the base to have a better result, you have a more data set, right? So if your data set is low, you are not going to get a better dashboard or discover result basically. Okay, so it's important you capture or make this process runs at least for 2 to 3 weeks. Then only you will have a better logs captured with the required number of line items. Then it can be processed by result. So you need to give that space for user to run. But at the same time, you cannot add n number of user here. To invite the user, just click on invite, but the invitation can go up to maximum 7 users. You may be thinking, okay, what if my team size is very big? How I can record multiple users? For that, you have to modularize your entire project. So maybe you have to break the like you have to view your entire business process into two categories. Like one set of team member may be doing some set of work, and then you group those users into by their work and nature of work, and create two different projects in task mining, and invite those users separately, so that you don't mix everything from at a process level, but you're really breaking them at their own task level. Then you can find out proper outcome of this. But maximum we can add always 7 users. Some of the team member will we are automating in our process. In marketing, we are deploying this task mining. So what we have done is we created around we are working with around 20 users. uh, although it's a very big deal. So what we did, we took five users and created four different projects based on their nature of application, nature of work, and all. But they're all falling under marketing. But we have created four different projects, and each project group 5 members. Okay, so that's one scenario. So what happens once the user is invited, right? So once you send the user, so before the user start their journey with task mining, first thing is they need to accept the cloud invite, what you send from your admin. And the cloud invite, once they accept, they need to create their account and activate the account. Second step is the invitation. Once you add the user, there is a link goes back to the user with invitation link with download URL. Okay, so it will go with the DX URL which they can download it. Once they download, this window will appear. Okay, the sign in user. So once you click on the sign in, you based on your login type, basically in our organization, we are using Microsoft. If it is a default account, you can choose best whatever the authentication you are following to cloud authentication, you can follow that. But as soon as you click on sign into UiPath, it will redirect you to cloud account login through your default browser. Okay. So once the default browser sign in is completed, it will launch this window to say open your task capture. Basically, it is redirecting your authentication token to task capture, right? Sorry, the task mining. And it will suggest which tenant you want to perform the action. So the tenant can be selected from here through the drop down. Once you select your tenant, now that this screen will appear, which will wait for administrator to start the recording. Once you just select this login and continue, it basically the next step is with admin to start recording with all the users, whoever installed task mining tool. As soon as the admin starts the recording on individual user machine, um, so user will get a consent request saying you have to accept the recording consent request. Once user accepted it, now the recording is started. This tool can be closed. It will always run in background. It will keep monitoring those applications, whatever you are doing. And you can see those, there is a icon will appear on the screen saying this is monitoring, this is captured. And if you want to pause it, you can pause it on the tool itself, saying I want to pause it for how much amount of time. Okay, so this is how the journey of a user lies. Login, authenticate via web, and then select your tenant and capture. This particular process, maybe for one time, you don't need to do this selection again and again. So next time, if you restart your computer, it will fetch your login automatically and start monitoring and doing your work. It will always start at the start of your computer. It has to monitor all the action. So this is how you'll perform. From a COE admin perspective, sometimes you may observe your users are running into issues. The queues are really not created or the logs are not getting pushed because of some network glitch or some different type of issues. So you have always that ability from admin control side saying you can go to task mining project, see who are the user active, who are the user not active, and you can reset certain queues or reset some users and start post start again. So those scenarios are possible as a troubleshooting or administrative perspective. Admin can always do. uh, there is a scenario you may be thinking, okay, is it only one COE admin? How can we distribute to multiple users? So what happened in task mining project, you can have more user added to the portal with admin role. Those users who are having admin role can only see your action, this like reset and all. So you can have more admin role, but these admin are not cloud admins. Cloud admins are separate, who are responsible to set up the project and start working and all. But you can have dedicated task mining admin as well. So there is a profile already exists, which you can create. Okay, so that's how the user starts. The once the recording is there, right? So you start basically you say, okay, I have now recording. You have basically the recommendation is 100K to 200K logs are captured. So how do you really do your task mining analysis, right? So that's where we'll take advantage of a AI model. So it's very simple. The steps are clearly called out. If you worked with AI Center project, you need to go to AI Center. Now create your own project. Select the model TM analyzer model. That's the model available as task mining, which is pre-trained model. Now select that particular model, select your data set, which will automatically suggest you from the drop down linking from your task mining project, saying this is the data set available. Pick the data set, run your evaluation pipeline. So once the evaluation pipeline is done, it will also send you an email saying this is successfully completed and it's published to your task mining project. So once this is published, then only we can do further dashboard analysis. Because if you see this screen, if I go back, there is a discover result. This particular discover result will be blank always. it will say there is nothing to discover, like nothing to analyze. So once you run your AI center model with evaluation pipeline, it will push that result out to this particular project. Then you can always discover. So before even you reach to discover, this is a mandatory step to perform. Okay. So this is how your data analysis will happen. But remember, it might take some long time, because if you have a lot of records like 500K, 600K, or if some GBs of record, so it might take some more time in terms of a couple of hours to complete your run and send you the report. So just give that. But just a call out, if you have a GPU license, there is a call out from UiPath saying it's not use GPU license because it might run into some issues, right? So it's a best practice to avoid GPU. Run with only with AI robot, simple AI robot license. No need to use the pro. Simple, go with a normal CPU one. Okay. Once your task like analysis is completed, you are basically now eligible to see your discover result. Now if you go back to your task mining project, if you click on discovery results, it will show you what all it analyzed from your entire uh, task mining with AI center, right? So it will categorize things like this. Like first is your task, how many repeated tasks it could see. Based on all the log, it will analyze the steps being performed with some UI and click action. It says, okay, let's say 6 unique repeated task it could observe with 278K of actions captured. How many users are really pushed the log, and what's the total time a log is captured. So some of the applications which are actively used, and how what's the distribution of usage, and you can also see that details about study details about the particular project. Now, this is a summary view, right? This is how you'll see a study your entire view. Now, there will be further views, like one is your task level view, one is trace level view. So within task level view, you basically can see, okay, what's the highlight about exact run? Like you can see within it will show in a diagrammatic view saying, I'll show you this. So within diagrammatic view saying, okay, this is the path which is frequently used, and what is the total number of execution or steps being captured with this green. So this is basically the recommendation being done. The frequent used path is highlighted through green. So you can really see it's an auto recommendation, right? It's basically recommending you, this is the task which is very frequent, and maybe you can drill into this to identify what's wrong. And you can go into individual steps to validate what's the, uh, how many steps are involved, if in case there is any time involved, what's the time is involved, what's all different possibility with respect to task analysis. Now, once the task you have checked, you can also drill into a very detailed stress where you can see a number of steps, how many number of actions are performed, and what's the execution time, and what's the application used. So this is how you can categorize your views. So this is how the output will look like once your AI center model publish the report. You can go to discover result to go into this level of analysis saying, okay, this is how I started, and this is one of the steps, like the task being performed, and how many number of steps, like you see 550, 414. So frequently used path is recommending. And you can further go inside to find the traces and the number of steps. And you can also click like see the diagrams as the recordings are getting pushed. It will also recommend you, okay, this is the associated screenshot of it, right? This is also possible to see associated screenshot. And if you go inside each individual trace, this is nothing but a flow chart. It is trying to suggest you, okay, this is what being done at step level. And some of these steps, renaming or modifying, this is possible during this analysis, right? So during your analysis phase, your process SMEs or BAs can revisit, update as needed, and recompute. Let's assume you have identified, okay, we see this is a perfect use case for automation. Then you have an option here called export trace, right? If you select export trace, it has this option called process design document, or export to a studio or something with a XAML file, right? So studio, the PDD will create using a default template. You really don't need to recreate any template. It use some default template, like the task capture output. If you have ever used task capture, same way it will also create the same document with screenshot, with flowchart, with some recommendation, time, and application details. And if you use studio, it will create a XAML file for developers to reuse. Okay, so this is how your journey from where you started is recording. It ends with a uh, YAML file PDD, and it is ready for development. Some of the roles it frequently comes during task mining project is one is COE team definitely involves to drive the project. They are the primary users who are primary admins who will responsible to create the project, manage the users, manage the entire task mining life cycle. And SMEs are going to help you in terms of after the recording is done, analysis is important, right? You have to analyze your traces, you have to analyze your steps, or which is making sense, what are the what could be potential candidate for from the recommendation, what could be potential candidate for automation. Same goes to BA as well. So they can join along with SME to support in terms of identifying some process re-engineering on a opportunity of improvement. Finally, the developers comes really at the end, because during the recording or analysis phase, developers has uh, primarily no roles involved. Developers can take those recommendations as a PDD or as a YAML file and take that forward and start creating any automation, whether in attended or unattended way. There will be a couple of tools which you may have encountered or come across while you are working, like task capture, task mining, process mining, and automation hub. It is all part of Discover, but maybe a little bit confusing with you. Let me help you with answering those. So, task capture are primarily a tool which is when you know what you are going to automate, right? Let's say there is a team who is let's say from finance, and they have a invoice processing use case, and they want to automate it. At the time they are completely aware what they are going to automate. So what is the challenge in front of them is how do they provide the document to the COE or the development team so that they can start automating it. That's the challenge. So when you already know your use case and you want to create a PDD out of this, then you task capture is the right tool for you. Using task capture, you can have this tool installed in your machine. You mimic your action, like you just repeat what you're supposed to do. You just do the action again, and it will create your PDD automatically, right? It will create a process design document, which is a predefined template, or it will also create your YAML file, and it is available for you to use. So that's all. There is no mining, or there is no intelligent behind to identify some discover some use case. It is primarily when you know the use case, when you know the steps, you are just using task capture to create a document or the YAML file. So that is for task capture. Now, task mining is when you don't know what you are supposed to automate. That's the scenario. As a user, I'm doing a lot of work, but maybe my team is doing a lot of work. It's not only about me alone. When my team is doing a lot of work, and what are those steps? What we are doing repeatedly? So there is a area of opportunity of identifying potential automation candidate or re-engineering. That time, task mining can be a best tool where you install this tool, and the users will start generating the logs, and they will do the regular work as they were doing today, and it will start capturing the log, and using those AI center model to recommend what is the best tool for best path for you to automate or re-engineer, right? That's where this task mining really helps, where employees are really involved to record their business day-to-day work, and then analysis is being done by the team, and the output will definitely goes like the output of a task capture. Now, in case of process mining, here the difference between process mining and task mining, both are mining tools, right? This both are helping in terms of identifying the area of opportunity where it can be digital transformation can be applied. But in case of process mining, it is not installed on individual user machine. Task mining case, you are installing a tool within user machine and letting the user to push their execution log, which can be further analyzed. But in case of process mining, we don't install any tool. Rather, we go one layer above, where suppose a team is working with S4 ERP. Let's say one of the ERP tool S4, SAP S4, Fury. So now the logs can be pushed from S4. Like you can consolidate all the logs from S4 and pass it via process mining, which will further analyze and identify. Okay, this is the right candidate for automation. It is not by a user specific, but it is a complete log from a particular process. Maybe you have a different team like the SAP GUI you are working, you have some logs, Eclipse process, or any tool you are working on, and there are a lot of team working on top of that team, and then like on top of that tool, you are generally feeding those logs from those tools to this process mining, and it is performing that discover and identifying automation opportunity. The difference between task mining and process mining would be on the type of the way you are capturing the logs and finding the opportunity. And finally, automation hub. This is uh, it is just a controller, right? It is trying to help you in terms of consolidating or standardizing in terms of ideas and platform. Maybe today you have a lot of application where you are capturing your ideas for automation. Let's say Excel. Maybe you have some different portal you created, customized portal or different platform. Automation hub is one of tool coming from Discover again. It's a cloud solution where you can let user be part of automation hub and submit ideas, whatever the automation idea they got, they can submit in a very intelligent way with simplified question. And it has those built-in algorithm to say, okay, what is right and like what's the percentage automatable, and detailed question, whatever you would like to ask the user, you can ask those questions and you can see those cost benefit analysis, document repository. It's a collaboration platform. Basically, this is a portal which helps to bring every users part of your automation umbrella into one place where they can ideate, they can reuse, they can collaborate, and it's a one place store for everything. So once your task capture, task mining, process mining, all this data can goes back to automation hub. From there, it can drive from ideation phase to different other phases, right? That's how it will come. So this is the key features it brings, like task capture helps you to create documents and build a skeleton of your project. Task mining is to visualize your process based on the log, whatever you have captured, and build a skeleton again. The output is similar, like it helps you to create a document um, along with a YAML file. Task capture also help you in that, but you already know the steps. And process mining again, it is help you to analyze a huge number of logs and find out relevant KPIs and related steps where you can really dig more detail. Generally, process mining has huge records you're processing. The transaction volume is really high. And in case of the output, if you see, we have basically we say PDD, that's the process design document, your YAML output, recorder, model when it is required, and backend data. So if you see this three tool, the comparison with task capture and task mining, this three remains same. You both generate PDD, YAML output, and recorder, but running a machine learning model in terms of your logs is not possible via task capture. Here it is process your logs and generate this document. Here you are directly generating this document. And here you're just analyzing a lot of backend data to identify process improvements. All right. So any questions so far? Any doubt how you are going to start? Let me show you on my screen. Okay. So if you go to your cloud account, so this is, let me log into my cloud portal. If you have any question, feel free to unmute and ask. Then let's just log into my cloud. So first step is you log into your cloud portal. This is available through cloud. Generally, the COE cloud admins can perform. So I'll just go to my community account. Okay, so if you see here, there is a tab called task mining. If it is enabled for you, can request it if it is not enabled. So you can request it to have task mining, but by default it should be there now. Community account, but not there. If you are from enterprise, work with your account team to create this one. So this is how we will go to task mining. Let me show you how to create a project. Okay. Right. So you can go to the tutorial and see. To create a project, just click on add project. Let me give a project name for maybe daily automation, daily task. Just giving some relevant name. Okay. I created this. Let's say first step is that the very next step is, so you created it has all this blank. We have a project space now. You can also move between multiple projects by clicking on this. I have two more sample project as well. So if I go to Teams, here's the place we can invite the user and add the user, right? So it will show only the user who are part of your team. Like in this particular cloud account, I have myself only added to the team. So you can add this user, click on send link. It will send the link to me, but yeah, basically I am the same user, so it will just bypass. But if you already, if you want to add any user, what you need to do, go back to home. Yeah, just don't miss this step. Okay, so go to admin, go to user group. Here, invite the users first. Okay, so I'll just try to use my public account. So I just added this user, invite. Okay, once you added, you definitely need to map the user to your orchestrator so that user can log in. So that's where this will be available. Now, if we go back to task mining again, I clicked on AI Center, so it's just launching. First step, if you see, I added the user, then only they can be invited. Daily task. My Gmail account is give a customized message. Then now this link will be sent to user. Okay, so the user is now added. This is how you can invite, and you see the status. Once the user added, you can see the status. This is the link, and user can be added to this portal. Okay, so this is first step. You need to add the user. You can like this. You can add different users, 7 different users. So once the user accepted, you can see the user is active. They're running. How is the status? Like here is I'm already added to one of the portals, so it is showing me I'm added and it's running. And one user can be part of only one project at a time. Okay, so that's the first step. Next step is you need to do some settings in terms of adding the project or storage and all. So in order to do that, click on edit. Here you need to select the AI Center project to run this particular one. So how do you do that? Maybe go to AI Center. Here you can create a project in AI Center. Click on create a project. Let me give a daily task AI model. So this is my AI Center project created. I will primarily use a out-of-box model called task mining. See, there is a out-of-box model available called UiPath task mining. Select that. You have AM analyzer model, which is a pre-trained model under task mining. Just select that. Use the latest updated version. So it's keep on upgrading. So use this updated version. So you're good. Give a name. Just giving any meaningful name. Okay, my model is ready here. So what is pending is to run a pipeline, but unless you have a data set, there is no point of running a pipeline, right? So we can exclude this step. If I go back to my task mining again, go back to the project. Now we completed team invitation. Now let's go to settings. Click on edit. You can bring your shared drive approach as well if it is network path, but you can go by recommended continuous recording with PIA masking. PIA masking, if you have some sensitive data, so it's all available. So you can enable and do the PIA masking. So sensitive data is secured. And here, if you see here, we just created this daily task AI model. This is reflecting, and you can give some name. Okay, save, done. So this is saved. The next is what application you want to record. So the next, let's say I want to record my Outlook, exe, maybe chrome.exe, all these different type of application you can keep adding in this list. Make sure you're giving this with the full name, with the extension, right? And you can also define if you want to stop the recording after certain goals. If you are not defined, it will keep on running. But if you say, I want to run automation recording until 5 GB, 10 GB, we can define that. So the call meet, it perform entire stuff. And you can also define some additional settings like dialog the user if there is any consent. Like consent is basically from the user if you need to accept the recording. If you want to enable, disable this. So all this is basic settings you can enable as well. Okay, so this is the steps. Here it is ready for user to start recording, right? Now, discover result, as we say, this is only possible after you perform your AI center model. After analysis, you can come back to here and see your discover. Unless that is done, it will show you no discover data because you have not done any pipeline run. Okay. Now, as a user, this is how admin perspective have done. Now, as a user, what we need to done, like if I open my task mining, this is the task mining. I already have installed. So end user need to log into the tool. So my task mining, I think, is recording here. Yeah, it's currently, if you see, it's not giving any green signals offline. Okay, so this is the end user interaction. You have this installed, then you have to click on sign in. It will redirect to your default browser for authentication. Now I already have a login session, so it understood that. So I just click on open task mining again. Now it will show me the tenant. Okay, so this is my default tenant. Continue. Whichever tenant you are selecting, make sure project is within that tenant. So how you can see that is here. So if you have multiple tenant, you can switch between multiple tenants to see which project is part of which tenant. So that's important. Now, if you see here, this below, the task mining is now online. This particular tool is online and the user is online now. Now it's trying to monitor the action, like it is trying to capture all the process. So if you click on this, you can see this is recording. And if you want to pause it like 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 1 hour, you can select it and pause. Now, what based on the application it is done, right? So if I open this, if you see this too, it is monitoring my notepad. This notepad or basically this action I am only monitoring a notepad. So it is a global application. So you cannot stop it. It's a global one. So it will keep on monitoring that. And this is, let's say I'm not monitoring Chrome. So I can just click on this and say, I want to record this app. So it will now, as a user perspective, start recording this app. Now it is recommended by the user to record it. Okay. Now, just now I recommended Chrome. If you see the Chrome is appearing in my recommended user list, I can make it as a global as well. But if it is a user recommended, you can always remove it because I recommended, I can remove. But the moment I'll make it global, you cannot remove that. See, it is disabled now. This option cannot be done because it's a globally mandate by admin to record. So whatever the action we are doing, it's keep on recording that. It's recording my notepad, it's recording my Chrome. And with queue, you can always see this is the queue which is really pushing your logs back. And you can see that if you go to overview, this is very, there is no data, like I'm not fully recording it, so that's why there is no data. Okay, and individual user specific also you can see how many recording are done, how many steps are captured, what's the activity time. So all this you can do. And one important thing from it, someone you are from COA admin team, there is a possibility user may say it's not working or I'm running into issues. So you can always come here, restart the queue so that it will start working as expected. So the queue is just see it's remotely restarted, so it will relaunch. So that those recording, if it is paused and done some issues, it will reset it. And you can also do restart the desktop app, stop the recording, or delete the user. So all this is possible. And remember, only admin can start and stop. User cannot start and stop. What user can do is just right click and maybe edit, kill this with task manager and say I don't want to run it. Okay, so This is just user exited. Okay, so user just exited, and sometime it will just monitor until red alert. It's not happening. There is no recording going on. Okay, so anytime you restart, task capture will relaunch. That is how the task manager is relaunched. It will relog in, get your session, and relog in. But if you are working with business users, make sure you inform them to see if it is green. It is online. This online is important. Otherwise, it will really not working. Right. This recording is online is important. Okay, so this is from a user and perspective you started, but I'll show you again. If you go back to AI Center after, let's say, you capture the recording and you're ready. So how do you run your pipeline? Let me show you one. Then we run. Okay, so daily task. So after recording is done, you will come to this pipeline and select create new. Here select evaluation run because you are really evaluating with your model what you created here by the default pre-trained model, and select the default version what is suggested and choose a data set. Now this is the data set. If you remember, we linked this particular one to daily task. So it is showing me the daily task, right? This data set, once you have a 400 like 100 200k data, so it is a good time to start. And as recommended, do not enable GPU, it might fail. As I don't have a log, it will also definitely fail, right? So I don't have much log, but this is how it will start. So once this evaluation, like packaging and running is completed, depending on log, it will take some time, and it will create, you will be able to go back to task mining and see your discover results. Basically, it will publish back to your project. So once that is ready, published, your discover will activate, like here. Now it will not show anything to publish, but once that is complete, it will come. So this is how you are setting up, like how do you project set the user, how do you start the recording, how to configure admin, and as well as run the uh, pipeline to see the result. Okay, so with this, I'll play a short video. Whatever we learn, maybe it will help you to connect your thoughts. We just set the video sound and then play this video.
Jasmine is on the hunt. She wants to track down the next great efficient automation opportunity for her organisation. Why? Well, now that she and her colleagues have seen the success of their first automation, Jasmine is on a mission to make things even better for everyone. That means ensuring no one is left wasting their time on mundane tasks, and that her team and her bosses get more of those automations they want. The problem? It's all very confusing, using traditional manual approaches to try and find out how the work gets done, with no clear pathway. It's all a bit of a maze actually, which means it's both time-consuming and expensive. Not good. And then of course, it becomes super tricky to scale up automation programs with all this complexity. Surely there's a better way. And there is. That's where UiPath Task Mining comes in. Task mining does away with all the confusion, giving you clear pathways ahead by analysing the daily tasks of all the employees and scientifically identifying the best automation ideas. Now it becomes a cinch to scale up your automations too. Talk about exactly what Jasmine's after. Here's how it works. The first stage is all about collecting. Jasmine can share the desktop app with her colleagues to start automatically capturing their activities with no interruption to her work or theirs. With security and privacy features built in, she can capture and upload the data no problem. Next, it's analysing those findings. Artificial intelligence teases out frequent task patterns to provide Jasmine and her team with data-driven automation suggestions that drive the highest ROI. Finally, a practical use of AI that will keep everyone talking. After that, powerful visualizations automatically construct process graphs so Jasmine and her colleagues can drill down into variations and frequent paths, including process replay. Finally, it's the export phase, where Jasmine can leverage the full benefits of the end-to-end automation platform and turn the discovered automation ideas into action by exporting her findings into UiPath Studio or as a detailed process definition document. Now, thanks to UiPath Task Mining, Jasmine is equipped with the knowledge of how work gets done and can supercharge her organization's automation strategy with the best automation ideas. Try UiPath Task Mining today and let science maximize your automation potential.
All right. So hope this is a useful session for you, which helps you to understand what is task mining, how to start the journey. I'm open for any question. Okay, if no question, feel free to reach out via LinkedIn or via forum. So if you have any question, we can always connect. Thanks everyone for joining. Looking forward to connect with you next time. Okay, so there's a question. I'd like to know about GPU. So GPU is basically a graphical processing unit. Whenever you are running a AI center model, you have option either to select GPU or normal AI robot like through CPU. So whenever you have a large scale volume, you want to process faster, then GPU is most recommended one. If you know, there are two type of license attached in AI center. One is AI robot and AI robot pro, and AI Robot Pro are GPU enabled, right? So if you have AI Robot Pro, then definitely you can use GPU to make AI Center models run your evaluation train pipeline faster, and it will be, you don't need to wait for longer queue. But if you don't have AI Robot Pro, then the normal lane is not that bad. You can definitely use. And sometimes, like task mining, it is recommended not to use GPU because it gives some different type of errors. Hope this makes sense.
Thank you, Shishra. Nice session. I got clear idea about task mining. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for joining. All right, so I'll stop recording.